Fellas, boys, Wayne Spooney, Jake Eisenberg, our guy, Greeny. How we feeling, fellas? 1-0, vibing.
Listen, I appreciate. I told you guys I was going to bully. I'm too superstitious right now. So, listen, I'm happy we're doing this ahead of game two. Let me just say that.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Jake, how you feeling, buddy?
Good, good. Worse than yesterday. The game two nerves have started to sink in a little bit. I'm not sure I've loved how confident everybody has been from the Celtics fan perspective over the last 2 days. Like, yep, revel in the win. That's literally game one. So just chill out just a tiny bit.
You know, we were here once before. And it was a better situation because we had one on the road. So I would advise everyone to just, take a deep breath. We got a long way to go.
We got a very long way to go. I will say the one difference I feel is that it felt like we completely stole game one against Golden State.
Yes.
With that crazy 3-point shooting barrage in the fourth quarter. And it's like, okay, you did your job 1-1 on the road. Now we're going to lose game two, which we obviously did. This was this was a fucking beatdown mostly, other than a 7-minute stretch from the end of the second quarter to the midway through third quarter. But guys, I'll throw to you first, Greeny. Is this the best our pick and roll defense has looked this year ever since Bill Russell retired?
Definitely in the playoffs, right? And I think part of that makes sense because you didn't have Porzingis for a majority of that. So your data set was filled with, Garland and Mitchell eating you up in the pick and roll without Porzingis. I think during the year, it was, it was in the, what was it, 6th percentile guarding pick and roll, in the playoffs. It was horrid. I don't think it was that bad during the year.
No.
But it's the key to them winning this series. I think we can all agree there, right? I can't imagine at some point in this finals, they're going to connect on a couple pick and roll lobs. They're going to score out of the pick and roll at some point. I just think if this is the baseline and this is as bad as you're going to play in the pick and roll, then you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, great start. I think part of it is it's a couple of things. It's the having Porzingis back is a huge part of it. And Cleveland, it felt like the plan was we're going to let kind of Mitchell cook a little bit. Even Mobley, we're going to kind of let cook. We're going to suppress the 3-point attempts. And we just know that Missoula Ball will win out. And then the second part of it, I think they raised their level. And a lot of the talk about the Celtics not being tested went out the fucking window in game one because they were the one who brought the fight to Dallas. Shocking. The team that's been in a million big playoff games was able to, raise their level to the level of competition. I do think that was part of it. And that was what I was saying coming in. On some level, you're only able to play as well as the other team can bring out of you. And I went on an Indiana radio station yesterday, which was incredibly cool.
Yeah.
But I was also you guys got screwed by the Celtics media discourse because everybody hates the Celtics. It led to people wanting to diminish what the Celtics were doing, which led to diminishing what Indiana was doing. But I was the Celtics faced a better offense than the Dallas Mavericks already. Yes, Halliburton went out after game two, but that's a better offense objectively than the Dallas offense.
Oh, it's just, when you spend 4 games in having to deal with a motion offense and a bunch of people that can attack off the dribble and, off the catch. And then you go and you have to then defend a heliocentric offense where everyone can kind of just stand around and wait for Luka or Kyrie. It's just of course, that's what was so confusing about this adjustment period. It's yes, they're 2 incredibly gifted individual scorers, but isolation is easier to guard than motion. That's true of the Celtics are easier to guard when they play isolation as opposed to when they're moving the ball and moving without the ball. So that was huge. And I think Tatum matching up with the center and the pick and roll changes everything because now if you switch, you're dealing with Tatum. If you don't switch, that is the adjustment what's the counter from the Mavs point of view? How are you going to get Tatum away from, do you screen? You set some sort of down screen on Tatum to try to free them up that way? I don't know. But until Kidd can prove that he can solve that adjustment, the pick and roll is gone until further notice.
Tatum's become a cheat code, and this is the first year. Like, he adds the 12 pounds of muscle or whatever. And I was saying in the First to Floor Discord, like, I'm excited to see what he looks like defensively in 3 more years. Like, as he continues to get bigger and bigger. Like, when he was a rookie, I was like, this guy's gonna be able to guard fives in the modern NBA eventually. And now he's guarded Bam, Mobley, Turner, Lively, Gafford. It's like, as long as you're not Joel Embiid or Jokic, then Tatum can kind of handle most of the fives, like in a scheme related sense.
If you're just a rim runner, rim runner and a lob guy, that's fine. If Tatum doesn't have to worry about you barreling him down in the post, like if Gafford wants to post up Tatum, I welcome those possessions, right? Like, I trust Tatum to be able to handle that. These aren't, like you said, these 300-pound behemoths in Jokic and Embiid. Which is why I don't know what their solve is. I think they're just going to be having to hope for variance. You have to hope that they just shoot better and you can keep it in that 100 to 110 range, and that'll be enough.
Yeah. And Tatum, this is going to sound bad, but I don't know how else to describe it. When he guards in the post, he's really good at reach arounds where he like reaches and gets his arm around and knocks their dribble away. He does that all the time. And I think on KP coming back, I just forgot how absolutely friggin' massive he is. And when he can play drop, he can get out and contest your shot while he's covering the roll man, letting the guy guarding the ball handler get over the screen. He basically is just a big delay tactic there, and it's all of a sudden like, you ran a screen, nothing happened, KP's still in position to guard the lob, and now Drew Holiday's back in your pocket, or Jaylen Brown's back in your pocket. So he was just awesome defensively, and I think it's not a coincidence that our pick and roll defense all of a sudden looked great with him. And on Indiana, people think of them as transition merchants. They have by far the second best half court defense in the playoffs.
It's not even the gap between the Mavs offense and the Celtics offense is the same as the Mavs offense and the Pacers offense. Like, the Pacers and the Celtics play both from a volume, creativity, a pressure point. Like, you can attack with Siakam, with Nembhard. They can hit threes. They have a stretch big. Like, I feel like Dallas would have struggled, and I think they did in all of their regular season matchups. They would have struggled with Indiana the same way we're seeing them struggle with Boston's offense.
Look, man, like, it was a lot of like, if the Celtics can't handle Siakam and Nembhard, how are they going to handle Luka and Kyrie? And it was like, Luka's obviously going to get his to a point, but like, in one of was it game 3 or whatever it was, Siakam was 11 for 13 on like exclusively mid-range contested fadeaways. It's like, it doesn't really matter who the player is. This is my Caleb Martin theory. It's like, yes, in theory, the Heat are going to get better, but are you ever going to find a player that scores 20 points per game on 50% from 3 on like 6 attempts? Like, I don't care who you put out there.
Yeah, I mean,
if they're going to do that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving has the big name and all the star power. Yeah. Andrew Nembhard played better against the Celtics in every single game they played in that series than what we just saw from Kyrie. So I think that's where the media and the fan aspect, it sucks, like you said, for Pacers fans, because it's like, we're not dog food. We're just happen to be playing a juggernaut of a team that has been you shouldn't be knocked down a peg because you struggle with the Boston Celtics when everybody is showing that they struggle with the Boston Celtics so far.
Yeah, it's like the chicken or the egg, right? It's like, has Boston not been tested, or are they just kind of that much better than every team that they've faced, right? That doesn't necessarily mean they're bad teams. And I think, I'm with you, Jake. People totally underrated the way Indiana played. They were friggin' awesome. I'd also say, like, they had Halliburton for 2 games, and the second game was our biggest win, and they didn't miss a beat. So I don't think that's a particularly good excuse to say we weren't tested, but okay, so that was an awesome game 1 win. I mean, pretty dominant. The pick and roll defense was great. The offense, for the most part, I thought the process was just incredible, other than it got sticky sometimes. But
okay, there was an 8-minute stretch where it wasn't great.
Even that, I rewatched that, man, and we did generate a lot of looks. It was often like one pass, open 3, which isn't ideal, and we know that's not when they're at their best, but they were makeable shots that we were kind of missing, and the Mavs got hot at the right time. But it's going to happen. Teams are going to go on runs. Are Celtics fans too confident right now? Because I'm getting worried.
So I've spent my entire Saturday working on this theory, and I think I might blog it tomorrow. I've been putting in a lot of thought on it. Earlier in the playoffs, right? We've seen the worst thing of previous years was the Celtics would start believing their own press. They would start believing their own hype. Then they lay an egg, they get smacked in the face, right? Then all the media, everyone would be shitting all over them. They'd come back and they'd reassert themselves. Just think of this year's playoff run, right? Oh, we're playing the vaunted Miami Heat. They're exposed to the zone. Oh my God. They whacked them, right? Then in game one, they're like, oh, we solved the Heat. We're not going to get, the black magic is over. They believe their press clippings, got killed in game two. Same old Celtics. Here you go again. We saw what happened. Then against Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell, they're finally playing a star, blah, blah, blah. Come out in game one, whoop it. Start believing. It's a trend, right? What did we have before the finals? Kyrie and Luka, two best players. Mavs in 5, Mavs in 6. Celtics come out, whoop the ass. Here's the difference.
Whoop the ass.
Here's the difference. Everybody is certain the Mavs are going to win game 2. The Celtics are still able, even after game 1, to have the mentality and the approach. It's still the nobody believes in us. We just won this game we were up 25 points in the fourth quarter, and every single person is saying, Mavs are going to just come back and win game 2. I think this is another time, just like Indiana, they did not buy their own press and buy their own hype. And I think the maturity that they've shown after each one of these games, this is the time where there's not and maybe this is me just trying to speak it into existence, but this is because so many people are in the Mavs corner for game 2, this is where you're going to see, I think the Celtics play even better tomorrow night.
I do like it because coming out of game 1 of the Pacers series, I was like, were we able to learn the lessons from a loss or get the lessons from a loss in a win? You should have lost game 1 of the Pacers series, but you won. So are you able to take those lessons? The bounce back Celtics have been historically dominant going all the way back to the Ime year. They don't lose these games in a row, right? Like back against the wall, Celtics are always awesome. Similar to not quite that bad, but at least they had that stretch, end of the first half, beginning of the third quarter, where like they almost did the thing. And they stabilized, and then they went on a 14-0 run. Like that was almost more impressive than any other piece of the Porzingis thing was just like pornography that should not be allowed. They should be scrubbing that stuff from the internet. But they went up so big, like 29 points, and they relaxed at the end of the second quarter, and the Mavs got back in the game, and it carried into the third quarter. So they have at least like a good amount of like stuff to work off in film, like mentality stuff to go back to and say to yourselves, we got to internalize this. We got to come out and not let that happen next game. Like to quote Jalen, the game started when they cut it to 8. Like have that mentality going in.
Yeah, and I just think, it's fair to assume the Mavs will be better, right? I think we all were under the impression that in this finals, the Celtics were going to have to beat the Mavs with both Kyrie and Luka playing well. So even if they play well, like that's not the death sentence for you, and like you can't overcome that in a game 2. I think it's unrealistic to think they're going to have the same performance. Like if they hold this team again to under 90 points, then they're going to sweep. I just don't think that's going to happen, both because I think you're going to get some Celtics regression because, the energy and everything of game 1, I think you're now not the more desperate team. But I just think water will, like everything, water finds its level. And it will for the Mavs. So it's going to come down to, can this team still execute when Kyrie and Luka have, 18 points in the first half and they're feeling good about themselves? Maybe someone gets into foul trouble. Like there were a lot of things that the Celtics did not have to deal with that they will see at some point these finals.
Yeah, and I don't mean to say KP's shot making that first half is like totally unsustainable, but a couple of those don't go in, like a few of them were difficult shots. The type of shots he's been making all season, but he missed them against Miami in that, those 2 games. So maybe those don't go down. The game has a little different tenor. There we go. That's the word, not tenure. That's what professors get. So yes, you think the Celtics will play better, Greeny?
I do.
But the Mavs will too. So we'll still blow them out.
If that's how it goes, I just think
That'd be nice.
I think the nerves are gone. I think once you get past the game one, the nerves are gone. It becomes a game of adjustments. And if you're telling me that Porzingis is still fine and he's as good as he was in game one, I think his conditioning could be better. I think they'll be reminded of how they fit together. I just think they know how important game two is, because if you win game two, you can essentially win the championship in game three for all intents and purposes. Like, these are the opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
These are the opportunities that they squandered, in previous years. They didn't do it against the Pacers. They didn't do it in game, they didn't, blow it in game one. Things were close midway through that first quarter. I just think we want to believe this is their time. Playing better in game two is their way of saying, like, we are ready to win the title.
Hell yeah, please do that, Celtics. All right, Jake, I think you grabbed the Drew Holiday video for us, but if you missed it somehow, because it's like the biggest news in Celtics land, Jason Kidd called Jaylen Brown the best player on the Boston Celtics. I thought both the Jays' response to that was perfect. They were like, it's a team game. That's nothing. They've always been trying to divide us. But Jake, if you'll do the honors, or I can because I have it up. Drew Holiday had this to say.
This is the first I'm hearing it, but I don't think he's lying. I think JB he's been aggressive in every single way. He's been getting to the paint, getting to the free throw line, also making plays for other people. And then he's guarding Luka. He's guarding the best player. I've been on teams where, just any team, where does your best player have such a heavy load on the offensive end, and then a just as equal heavy load on the defensive end? That's hard to do. That's hard to do, especially against somebody like Luka.
Jake,
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but then we'll get to diving into game two, X's and O's kind of stuff. But what the hell, Drew? Just say nothing, dude. I don't necessarily think this is going to be a big deal, but Horford absolutely nailed it. He was like, I see what you're trying to do.
Horford,
yeah.
Yeah.
What are we doing, Drew? Just say nothing. He was I saw someone say Drew doesn't quite fully understand how insane the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown discourse has been over the past 7 years. So he's just I think he's just saying, yeah, fuck man, Jaylen Brown's been unreal.
Awesome.
And he's right. I think that's it.
Yeah, and he was trying to agree with the part where kids said, oh, he does guard, the best player on the other side. That's all true. But you're right. I think, Tatum shrugged it off, has been there, even called it out. This isn't our first rodeo. Jaylen brushed it off. Horford brushed. They've been here. They understand how stupid and how desperate of a narrative that is. I think Drew's just the new guy, and he's just he's too non-dramatic to even know what drama could potentially be. He's so there are 0 red flags with Drew Holiday. So it's just he gave a normal human answer, not realizing you have to play the NBA drama game.
Yeah, so, listen to the way Milwaukee talks about Giannis and the way Boston talks about Jason Tatum in the media. It's they hail Giannis up as a god, and then our radio guys come on and this guy's a bum. He's the third best player on the team, blah, 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 blah. Drew's just, he's the new guy. I think he was just trying to gas up JB, but for the love of God, just it was JB last night. Sometimes it's Tatum, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Al, sometimes it's KP, Derek. It changes every night. That's why this team is so great. That's it, Drew. That's all you had to say.
But I'll tell you this: please give Jason Tatum single coverage, triple Jalen. Let's see it, Jason. Let's see it, kid. Put your scheme where your mouth is, and actually have that be your defense, because it's so obvious what he's trying to do. And I think if their adjustment is to stay home on shooters and let Tatum, try to shoot the Celtics out of it, it's not going to work. He's just going to take everyone into the paint and get to the free throw line.
Yeah, I will say on Drew not realizing what he's doing. This is a little deep internet sleuthing, there's like one account that like tracks every like follow or not follow on Twitter. And Drew Holiday is kind of like the dad that doesn't understand how social media works. Like my actual dad texted me just before and was like, I saw a Shams tweet, saying that Josh Giddey's getting paid $15 million to go to Utah. I was like, no, Dad, that's a troll about like Karl Malone and like, Josh Giddey, going there. He's like, oh, okay, classic. Drew, if you don't know, recently followed like a porn account on Twitter.
Multiple.
Multiple. So he doesn't know what's going on, man.
Who hasn't been there?
Look,
it was a long layoff before the finals.
It's 2024.
Like that picture? Shit.
So Drew doesn't know what he's really doing out there. He's just a dad, he just farting around.
Paul Pierce tweeted out a picture and an emoji. Sometimes they just don't know.
Yeah. Hey, as the resident old guy, I totally get it, fellas. And kids were stronger back in my day too. But all right, we got to jump into the ad read, and then we're gonna dive into game 2.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. With Prize Picks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and you're locked in. The finals means more on Prize Picks, and so do the star players. You get boosted payouts on select basketball stars that you won't find anywhere else. I've been cooking Spoonie and Ben by hammering more on Jaylen Brown points and Jason Tatum rebounds. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Yeah, Prize Picks, check it out. Use the promo code. It's a fun way to kind of engage with the game, especially if your team isn't playing. It kind of adds a little extra to the game. And we should do one for tomorrow night's game, Jake, because I've been completely slacking on that because you've been whipping our ass so bad.
That's right.
Why would I want to do it? Yeah. All right, game 2. I think what we're going to do is just we'll look at maybe some adjustments we might see from the Celtics. And then I think more importantly, what we might see the Mavs do. So, Jake, if you want to rip it from the top.
Yeah. All right. So I'm assuming KP's going to come off the bench a little bit. I mean, so that was a surprise. Little mental warfare from Joe. Sounds like he's on the minutes restriction. We don't really know what it is because he didn't actually have to play in the fourth quarter, but he played 21 minutes. I'm guessing it's around 26 minutes. But so I looked at all of the numbers. This is not really an adjustment. This is something I just wanted to point out. Steve Jones from the Dunker Spot said, if anyone wants to go look up Kristaps Porzingis' numbers from all the teams he's left in this past season, that's quite interesting. Dude, Kristaps has murdered every team that he used to be a part of this season. So 5 games against the Knicks, 2 games against the Mavs, 2 games against the Wizards. He's averaging 22.3 points per game on 74% true shooting. Like, he's just been shredding apart the Knicks, the Mavs, and that includes the game 1 against the Mavs and obviously 2 games against the Wizards. And you're like, oh, how much of that is skewed by the Wizards? That was actually his least efficient games were against the Wizards. He completely destroyed.
He killed the Knicks.
Murdered the Knicks. And so I don't know, is he a revenge merchant? I don't know, but he so far has proven to be a guy that likes to destroy everyone that has wronged him in the past. So I just wanted to point that out. But Greeny, do you expect Porzingis to come off the bench again? Game 2.
I do, even though I think at some point I think he will be back in the starting lineup. I think for now you just go with what works. If that is what had him on his rhythm and his leg felt good, fine, go with it. But I mean, I do think there will be some shooting regression for him in game 2. He was unconscious in game 1. But I also think you'll get a much better Jason Tatum in game 2. What I think will be consistent and what matters more to me is Porzingis on the defensive end. Jumping off 1 foot, rim protection was there without fouling. He looked good as I expected in space. And this is for a guy who doesn't have the game wind after missing a month. So I expect him to be just as good defensively. And if they get that type of performance, that'll be able to make up for, I don't expect him to make 5 of his first 6 shots, including 2 from 35 feet. Like, if he does, my pants are up. But in reality, in these series, it's like, okay, that was the prayer Porzingis shooting game. So be it. He can still be effective because they don't have an answer for him on either end of the floor as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, and I think him just being out there, the fact that he can take 32 footers and make them just changes the geometry of the offense so much. So I'm not really sure what you do. It seemed like Joe liked to match him with Lively. I guess he's worried about Gafford maybe rebounding or getting on the offensive glass or something. And Gafford's a pretty incredible leaper too on the lob. So maybe it was partly that. I don't know. Maybe he just keeps going with that. If Lively starts, maybe KP will. But ultimately, it's all about him giving us 20-ish good minutes, and we obviously got that. So even if it's off the bench, and there's an argument, it's like KP fresh off the bench when the Mavs make their first round of subs, it's like that's gonna be murder, dude. It's like crazy Jamal Crawford, it's 7'3" Crawford coming out.
You want to know what's funny is some game during the season, it was a TNT game.
I was just thinking the same thing.
And Charles Barkley was like, and I clowned Charles. I wrote a whole blog on it, but now I'm like, was he onto something? Is he the Bill Walton, Kevin McHale of this era where like he comes in against these second units, he's fresh. Like if you have a fresh Porzingis with Jalen in the first non-Tatum like shift, I don't know. Maybe there could be something to that. Even if it's just for this matchup, like maybe that's the best way to survive these non-Tatum minutes. And then you can take Porzingis out. He doesn't have to be, overexerted. I don't know. Maybe there's something to it.
I like it. But yeah, and on the, is that the Porzingis game? Like obviously that first quarter was insane, but I've seen Mavs fans be like, Porzingis won't do that again. He ends the game 8 for 13. His season average was 7 for 13. So
well, here's the problem. Yeah. It's a lot of fan bases that don't watch a lot of Celtics are surprised when the Celtics come out and shoot crazy. It's like, this is what they do. Like it's almost a shock if they don't make 16 threes in a game. So for me, a lot like we all at some point said that against, Caleb Martin won't do this again because we saw a lot of Caleb Martin during the year and knew what he was. I think you're hearing it's the same type of copium that you're hearing of, a guy who averaged 20 and 6 won't get 20 and 7. That logically makes sense. It's just they're not used to seeing, they didn't see this with Minnesota. They didn't see it with OKC. Like they're just not used to seeing the caliber of shooting and the volume of shooting from all 5 positions that the Celtics, present. So their only natural discourse is, they're not going to be able to do that again. Whereas, this is like, I'd say I give this like a B- Celtic. Like this wasn't even them at their peak or at their ceiling. So I just wait until they go like 23 of 48 and then we'll see.
Yeah, this was not an outlier shooting game. They shot 39% on wide open threes and like 37% on open threes. Like that is basically our season average.
Like they were their same average. So imagine what they look like when they overachieve.
Yeah, and speaking of open and wide open threes, I was going to move us on, Jake, unless you got something else. Go. All right. So Jake put in here, I'm stealing his notes. Tatum continues to trust the process, and he played the right way. It's such like a trope to say that it's worn out, but that's exactly what happened, right? He got into the paint. He passed out, I think NBA University tweeted out, he passed out at 25% of his drives in the regular season, and it was 61% in game 1. Like, he just took what the defense gave him, and Jason Kidd is trying to bait him into not doing that, and I think he just needs to keep doing so. Just keep passing the ball, dude. It's going to be wide open all series.
Yeah, I didn't feel like he had any of those settling, like really low percentage, one-legged fadeaway mid-ranges. I think there were a couple misses around the rim that, he probably got fouled on that he didn't get. So it's like that makes his 6 of 16. If that's, 6 of 14, are we even having this discussion? Like that's how slim the margins are there. For me, I'm with you, Spoony. It's the approach. It's the mindset. I think his only adjustment is going to be they were very, very conscious of bringing in that late rotation to take away the drive, to try to draw the charge, to bait Tatum into passing into the corner. I think in game 2 we're going to see him go strong and try to finish through that guy right at the center or top of the arc, just because he's going to get to the free throw line at some point. And I think by letting them off the hook and always making that corner pass, it's like punish their players and put them in foul trouble, but also get to the free throw line so you can see the ball go in and get some rhythm there. So it would not shock me at all if we see, a couple more block charge 50-50 calls because he's going into the contact to try to finish.
Yeah, it's just stick with it. Don't let the outside noise try and trick you into wanting to take 20 shots. I don't think it will. Like, he's literally done it the entire year. Like, sacrificed all the numbers, all playoffs. He's been very comfortable and very happy to just play the best floor game of his career. And that's been the biggest jump from Tatum this year, has been the playmaking, the ability to read the game. So just keep doing that. I like that he found the confidence, and now he's like, I know I can beat Lively one-on-one. I know I can beat Gafford one-on-one. I know I can beat these guys one-on-one. I get into the paint. Not to step too much on the Mavs adjustments, I do think that they will send a little less help. Because I'm watching a couple of them, I was like, Lively? Like, he beat Lively,
Crazy.
but it's like he beat Lively, but I like, do you want to see if Lively can recover? They didn't even give Lively a chance to recover or give guys to see if they could, like, similar to how the Celtics played Luka. It's like, just stay home and let him kind of cook a little bit. I do think that that's going to be maybe an adjustment, but then just be confident, be strong, go and go do that, and then make the play out of that.
And listen, it's just as much on the table that he erupts for 35. Like, it's not like he was held to 16 points because he was being put in jail. It's just how he decided to approach beating that defense. If that doesn't mean that he wouldn't have been capable as an ISO scorer to take over, but that is not how this team is going to win. They win by getting you worried about all 5 positions, because if you can't sag off one guy, you're cooked. Jalen's going to get to the rim. Tatum's going to get to the rim. White's going to get to the rim. We saw Holiday do it against PJ. That's, I think, I'm with you, where we're going to see and I don't want to, go too far ahead, but we're going to see the Heat and Pacers defensive approach of, go ahead, take your twos. We can't let you make 23s on us. So be it. I think this is a game. If you remember the last game in March, the Celtics had 21 threes and 61 points in the paint against the Mavs in that March 1st game. So they're going to have their opportunities. I think if they're baited into twos, you can maximize it. If they're going to have a similar situation last night, I think we're all comfortable with the volume and the looks that were generated from everybody that took a three. I think there was probably only one or two bad, ill-advised, threes. And we all agree, I think, if you're getting into the paint and you're driving and kicking, those are threes you take every single day of the week.
Yeah, and I think once they start, really selling out on the threes, that's when you go into the post. If they're not going to bring help, just get Tatum into the post, and then it's basically, whoever he's got down there, I'm assuming one of the guards, he'll cook them, and then they're going to have to start helping again. And it's just like cyclical with this team because there's not really anything you can do to stop them.
Right, so and give it to Porzingis in the post. We saw, there's just, with him in the lineup, there's just too many unsolvable problems at any given moment to where they're scheme proof. And that's why Porzingis was always the cheat code, because he is what makes them scheme proof.
Yeah. Yep. On the post ups, I think that's a button they haven't pressed yet. And because they didn't need to. I mean, obviously Porzingis had, Jaden Hardy, he had a Josh Green one. He had a couple of post ups, but Jalen and Jason didn't really get in the post at all. In that third quarter, there was a few possessions. One, don't post Porzingis up on Luka. I think that's pretty clear. It's pretty obvious
he's got a good reach around too.
Yeah, he's got a great reach around.
Long arms.
Yeah. Tatum and Luka, similar reach around capabilities. But Luka, that's similar to Harden. That's the one part of defense he's totally fine at. It's you're not gonna. I would not be stunned at all. Actually, I'd probably bet on it that Luka weighs more than Porzingis. I think that's
easy.
probably easily, right? So that's definitely if you're going to do all the matchups, you're not posting up Porzingis on Lively. I wouldn't stun me if you could post up Gafford, but Gafford, Lively, and Luka and PJ Washington. don't need to post Porzingis up on those guys. Other than that, obviously all the small guys, but like there was a possession in the third, got the tap away, and they didn't find Tatum a couple of times matched up on to Kyrie. So I think in transition where like they just passed it to the other side of the court. And it's like that's a button they haven't hit yet because they're doing a lot of switching. And so just find Jalen, find Jason in the post against Kyrie and see if he can hold up down there. I don't think he can. So that's an adjustment I think you can go to if they start to, cut the threes off, show less help, make you beat them one-on-one with switching and not send the help and knock those twos down. Go with the right matchups. Like be purposeful. Go to the isolation thing that everybody that the national media thinks is a bad sign when really like it's the bread and butter of this Celtics offense is like, oh, you have one kind of weak link. Well, and your entire defense is screwed now because Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can just take that guy in the post. Yeah. So that would be an adjustment they didn't use, which is great. It's like that's something that's been so impactful and crucial for this Celtics offense all year and something they didn't need in game one.
And I think they'll have experience, right? Because if I remember correctly, weren't the Pacers among the league leaders in limiting 3-point looks? I feel like I heard that. Maybe it was Grandy. I feel like somebody said that, like their strength was limiting opponent 3-point percentage, which I always found kind of surprising because it felt like with how poor their defense is, it was just driving kicks all day. But I feel like I read somewhere where they were really good at running people off. They like sold out to run people off the line. So I feel like there isn't a defense this iteration of the Celtics hasn't seen. So it's like, cool. Like we have an answer for any adjustment you want to make, which is what makes them unique compared to last year.
Yeah, I just looked it up. The Pacers had allowed the fewest above the break threes and the fewest corner threes. So obviously they're number one total.
Well, that's what I mean. Like we just went through a series against a team that is elite at taking away 3-pointers. So it's like we didn't lose the game against that team. So if you want to take away, and that was without the best post player and most effective offensive post player in the league. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel good as long as Porzingis is healthy.
Yeah, and I really think we got to go at Irving in the post. There was when Tatum had that spin-off dunk that he posted up Kyrie in the high post, and we ran awesome. Tatum was on the weak side, and we ran like a pick and roll with JB, and he like ducked in. He did like a face cut to the high post, and they hit him. He had both shoulders to work off of, and then we ran it like 3 more times, and they missed him every time after that. And it's like, oh, just give it to him. Like that's so easy money. So I don't want them to miss, and like that has the double benefit of it might rack up on fouls on Kyrie, and it just wears his ass out, man. So when you have the opportunities to post up on Kyrie, you absolutely need to take them because it like as Luka is a great post defender, at least compared to his overall defensive reputation. Kyrie's not bad if he's like you're trying to ISO him.
He's got good length.
He's
physical. He's got good size. His problem is just if he's trying to guard. I mean, Jalen's just a stronger human being. Yeah. So it's like even on possessions where Kyrie has good defensive position. That's great. Congratulations. But Jalen is way stronger than you. And you're not going to, and Tatum is way stronger than you. And Holiday is like, I feel like he does a pretty good job of really getting into Derek White's airspace on the catch. Really, they're making Derek initiate offense with his back to the basket, which is interesting. Like that has to be figured out. But everybody else is way too strong for him. And it's, even if he has good possessions, and he gambles a lot too. He tries to go for steals because he can feel like he's overmatched physically. And I would rather deal with a guy like Luka, who, while he's strong like bull, is also slow like cow. And just like, it's like get him in space. And I feel much better about that than trying to, work around Kyrie, who can poke a ball loose here and there and be crafty with his speed.
That's the new T-shirt. It's going to be like a graphic of Jalen crossing up Luka and just slow like cow.
Well, cows are slow, right? I kind of just
they are very slower than like relative to.
Because I feel like bulls can can get up there in speed,
Yeah.
so I didn't want to say
Yeah.
that.
They're
they
probably
can
faster than you think, but
Yeah. Unlike Luca, who might be slower
Yeah.
than you think. But all right, I think we should probably dive into the Mavs adjustments. But before that, a quick message from Game Time.
The NBA Finals begin June 6th, and instead of working like I should be or putting any effort into preparing for the next podcast, I'm sitting around daydreaming about getting myself to an NBA Finals game at TD Garden. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Our guy Jake Eisenberg's dad recently traveled from Australia to Boston to catch a couple of games during round 2. He used the Game Time app to sign up with code CLNS and get himself an incredible deal on tickets. I'm scrolling through the Game Time app right now, and there's a huge range of tickets available for games 1 and 2 of the NBA Finals in Boston for a wide variety of prices. I love that you can enable the all-in pricing feature, which just shows you the actual price of the ticket without any surprise costs at checkout. You can see the view from your seats before you purchase your tickets, and Game Time offers last-minute deals. You can hang out outside the arena, wait for a last-minute deal to pop up, and save up to 60% on tickets, whether it's sports, concert tickets, comedy, and so on. And Game Time ticket coverage means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off your purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Go check out Game Time. It's a great app. My buddy texted me that he had $300 tickets to the finals, and I told him that is likely a scam. Turns out it was, so avoid embarrassing situations like that with Game Time. But yeah, and what a beautiful dulcet tones from Ben Vallis there, who is complimenting himself in the chat right now. But Jake, Mavericks adjustments, what do you got for us?
Kyrie, don't be bad, I think is probably the best, the number one thing you're hoping if you're a Mavs fan, right? I only had time to watch the first half again yesterday. I don't know, man. He's going to have a tough time in this series, but like he obviously missed some good looks. In that first half though, he didn't get a slither of space in that first half. But he has to hit some of those open look pull-ups. So Kyrie Irving, like one of his 6 buckets, Drew just fell down and he hit a pull-up jumper over like Porzingis because he didn't think Drew was going to fall down. Mm-hmm. But like they were all pretty much tough shots. There was one wide open pull-up. He came off a screen that he missed like when they were kind of on that run. That was the one where I was like, oh, he always makes that shot. But everything, even the shots that he made were really tough. And so I'm not saying that he's like there's anything necessarily like they can really do to get him going. I think it's a really tough matchup for him. But just purely Kyrie, maybe don't like interact with the crowd. I don't know what you're doing there, like chirping back and forth at the Garden again. But that's probably like if you're a Mavs fan, you're like, oh, Kyrie won't be 6 for 19 again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the easiest adjustment is what we see from every team that gets into these, games against the Celtics where they, really get destroyed with the 3-point variance battle. I think you're going to see them up their volume tremendously. I think Maxi Kleber, he's not even looking at the rim in game 1. I think he is now going to be a little bit more proactive. I think there were times where Kyrie had open threes. He held off for a possession for a second or two and then, went into the lane. That's done. Those threes are now going up. I think every team we face that knows they have a unsolvable matchup problem then tries to shift gears to try to beat you with variance. And the hope is, they were 2 for 10 on wide open threes. Water finding its level suggests that number will be better. So my thought was they'll start hitting some of their open threes that they missed in game 1, and they'll start to lean into that more and, play the variance game, because right now that's really the only tangible basketball adjustment they can make, right? If Tatum is going to stay on Lively in the pick and roll, like that is gone. So I think having guys, Luka doing his best, passing out of the post to find shooters, and then they're just going to spam threes and hope that they can get high 30s to low 40%.
Yeah, and I noticed that Kyrie took a catch and shoot corner three, and I bet that is not a shot that he often is in a position where he has to take. I just looked at, he only takes 0.8 corner threes a game in the playoffs, and he's at 33% on them. That's just not where he wants to operate, and I think it goes to how well the Celtics were playing defense, taking the Mavericks out of like their normal spots they want to be on the floor. Yeah, I was trying to think of ways they could get Kyrie going. Like run him off pin downs to get him like on the move, get to his right hand into the center of the defense, but he's not really that type of player. Like he wants the ball in his hands. He wants to kind of operate at the controls or drive a closeout, which he's really dangerous at. But man, like when you can just throw length at him, he really struck. That's the downside of having a 6'1", 6'2" guard in the playoffs. Like there's just limitations to things you can't teach height, man. And Kyrie lacking it really showed in that first game, I thought. But yeah, he'll make some shots. Yeah, he missed at least one or two completely wide open threes that I anticipate will go in, but you can't even, he's not even like stout like Peyton Pritchard, where you can have Pritchard set the screen on a pick and roll and he'll set a decent screen. Like you can't do that with Kyrie. You're just going to walk right around him. So
Yeah,
there's kind of
Drew's going to fucking destroy him if he tries to do that. Yeah.
I also, it wouldn't surprise me if they try to attack and force a PJ Washington on Derek White's switch.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, there were a couple of those possessions where
Yep.
PJ just out muscled him, out physicaled him into the rim, to the rim. I think that's something they can exploit. Like it sounds crazy to say someone should pick on Derek White in the post defensively, but if you just go through the list of areas where there could potentially be an advantage, there were those possessions. I mean, PJ Washington is strong as hell. So it's like, I would much rather, if I'm the Mavs, try to get him going through something like that than hoping after not touching the ball for 35 seconds that he's going to be automatic from three. I feel like they're going to try to get someone like Derek in foul trouble so that they can be less physical at the point of attack defensively. So maybe trying to attack it that way, getting Luke in the post to try to bait guys into fouls. I think that's sort of their game two strategy is, okay, let's spam threes and let's try to draw fouls and live with the results.
Yeah. And then the other bit that I'm very much expecting, like, because I do think the Celtics defense is going to, like, why are you changing, right? I think that the calculus is going to be the same. We want to cut the lobs off and cut the corner threes off. That's just like the philosophy. The Celtics do not send Tua to the ball. They don't blitz like all year long. That's just like, we believe in our ability to just like help a little bit recover. Just be excellent, stay solid. So I do expect Luka to try and do what to the Celtics what he did to the Wolves in Game 5. Like Luka was great in this game, 30 points. If he goes 5 for 12 as opposed to 4 for 12, he's at 42% from three. But he wants to make the right pass. Like Luka with one assist, I think they just have to accept that's the way that the Celtics are playing them. Like, can Luka force the Celtics to blink? Can he go nuclear enough to where Missoula blinks? I don't think so. Like, I think.
I'll tell you what, it felt like we were getting close to that in the third. When he was mean mugging after his second back, step back three, it's like, all right, they may need to figure something out, but obviously they responded anyways. But there are things like where you just say, okay, you have to send to it, Luka, but I don't know. I think the damage will be done well before then, where like, even if he, like the game in March, he had a 38-point triple-double, didn't matter. So I think with Porzingis, they are able to absorb that, outbreak, Luka game where he's completely dominant in all aspects, but it's about the others. It's not about Luka. It's about, can they not get a random Jaden Harvey game or Josh Green? Can he be, look at all their role players. They played like the standard that we were expecting. If you can keep them on planet Earth, I don't think it matters, because just do the math. If Kyrie and Luka have 80 points together, they're still going to need, 40 to, 50 points from everybody else, most likely. And I don't know. I think the moment was a little too bright for that being their first time through it. I think the Celtics experience helped their balance of everybody was ready. Everybody was calm. That's why they had 6-7 guys in double figures, because it's like the moment didn't feel too big for them.
Like, I think it would need to be, sorry, Spoony. A question for you, Spoony. How big do you think the explosion needs to be for Missoula to really flip. So I think I don't think it's a single game. I think Missoula will be like, I want you to prove it over multiple games. You can go for 49 on 60+% true shooting while guarding the other end.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Like Joe does, I'm not sure he blinks like literally sometimes. Like never mind figuratively with stuff like this. Like one game is not going to move him. It might not even be 2 games. And then at that point, though,
though, we don't want another Steph Curry and drop coverage situation on our hands. So at some point, you have to adjust if he's going to keep, killing you on it.
Right. No, I totally agree, and that's kind of the give and the take with Missoula, right? Like we do gain the benefit of him being a bit stubborn at times, but then it can burn you sometimes too if he's a little too stubborn. I think if it's like the second game and he's he's got 50 in game 2 and then 25 at halftime of game 3, I think we will see some things change, but I think the odds of that are pretty low with just the way we can defend him and all the guys we can throw at him. But make no mistake, that dude is taking like 10 pull-up threes, like behind the pick and roll from like 30 feet. Yeah.
Like, wasn't that like 4 of his first 5 shots in that game 5 against Minnesota? Like he can hit it. And I think, like I said, we saw it with the Heat in game 2. We saw it with the Cavs. We saw it with the Pacers. You have to, when you know that you are undermanned against the Celtics, your only course of action is to just spam threes and hope you get a black magic shooting game. Because, if you don't, they're just too good defensively to limit everything else, you're not going to beat this team scoring 2s, I think is the overall point.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And just be ready for it mentally. And I guarantee, like they've talked about it. It's like Joe's going to be like, expect him to have 42 in the first half and be like, that's cool. We're just going to have to try and execute down the other end, stay connected and go from there. And then put on a fucking documentary about killer whales.
Yeah. Real quick on that, I do have that quote because it's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, Sam Hauser on Joe Mazzulla. I would just say he's got like a unique approach to the game. He pulls things from like soccer teams, pull things from killer whales and how they go about finding food and prey, things like that. Whatever the fuck that means. But that's
killer
Joe,
whales
baby.
Are legit. I love that. I love killer whales.
Yeah, me
orcas.
too.
Orcas are no joke, man. They're like the peak. You think great white sharks are scary?
No, orcas run the ocean.
Orcas, bro. Dude, teamwork as well. They hunt in packs.
Hell yeah.
My second working theory, if you look at the success of Dan Hurley at UConn and now Joe in the NBA, is the key to basketball just having an absolute psycho as a head
Phil
coach?
Jackson, dude. He was nuts.
Right?
He was a different
maybe
style.
that's Ime was like our first introduction into like sort of a psycho. He was more
Diet
of a psycho
psycho.
In a different area.
Harder.
To now have a basketball psycho is like maybe this is the path that every basketball team on earth needs to copy.
Yeah, you just gotta find the craziest obsessive.
Right, you gotta have the
motherfucker
basketball
on planet
psycho and not the weirdo in the workplace psycho.
You're right, exactly.
It's a
a
delicate
fine balance. Yeah. All right, I have a couple. But I'm thinking, okay, so they want to get Porzingis into the pick and roll. That's their entire game plan essentially in game 1. I think if you put Washington in an empty corner and then bring him up as the screen setter, sort of empty side pick and roll, because we were pre-switching every time we could, really. Like Jalen was jumping out and protecting Porzingis from the pick and roll. Pritchard did it once, yeah. So I thought we did a really, really great job at that. But I think if you're on the empty side, that help, that pre-switch has to come from so far away. It's probably not possible. So I think we will see a lot of that, but then that kind of slows you down. You got to set that up. You got to get everybody in position. You got to make sure your center is positioned right, because then Tatum can just ignore Daniel Gafford and help if he needs to. So I don't know what the Mavs can really do. That's something I came up with. I don't know.
It sounds like a cop-out, but it really just is play better, Like sometimes when the Celtics lose a game, I think everyone wants to overanalyze it, and the real answer is just don't play like an asshole. Play better. Play winning basketball. Like once you get into this stage, it's win the margins, rebound, take care of the basketball. Like, you don't have to overcomplicate it. For me, that's all I care about the Celtics tomorrow is keep points off, turnovers low, don't have a cold 3-point shooting night, and rebound the basketball. If they do those three things, it won't matter what adjustment Dallas makes because you're not going to be playing into losing, which is half the battle. I think we saw at the end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third, the Celtics played into losing. When they don't do that, there's just the talent difference is too high.
Yep. The only thing that worries me a little bit is that just staying home a little bit more. They really overhelped a ton. And it's okay, we're going to trust Lively. And their pickup points were so high on Tatum. You play back a little bit. You try and pack the paint just from the perimeter a little bit more, make those drives a little more difficult, don't help. And you force Tatum to kind of finish over length. But then that's when we go back to now we're hunting. Now we go back to hunting mismatches if that's the way they're going to be playing. And round and round we go. But that's the one piece. Do we get a high turnover, Tatum kind of unsure of where the offense should be going kind of a thing? I think they can handle it. But that's the adjustment I expect is for them to they were just over the top with their pickup points and their help. So I expect them to bring that back a little bit and cut down on the help.
Yeah, and on that, do you guys? So they basically switched everything in the pick and roll defensively. The Mavs did, and then it was just Brown and Tatum crossing up.
Yeah,
pick your poison. Luka, both the bigs. PJ Washington sometimes. I wonder if they'll Cleveland had some success hedging and recovering against us. Maybe they throw some traps out there. I think Tatum's gotten really good at handling traps, but JB, once in a while, you can turn him over on those. Do you guys anticipate we're going to see them switch? Because switching does flow from what you're describing, Jake, right? It's kind of a way to just keep everything in front of you. Nothing crazy. Don't overhelp. But Greeny, do you think they'll switch it up at all on us?
I think they'll stay the switch and they'll make Porzingis prove that he can do what we've all seen him do all season. But it's still, a contested jumper is still a contested jumper, even if it's coming from a 7'3" god. So I think they will switch. I wouldn't play drop against this team, obviously, with how good everybody is in terms of pull-up threes. Hedging and recover could work, but not if you're running it on Jason Tatum. You're asking, he's way too much of an elevated passer to do something like that. If it's against Jalen, maybe. But even now, I don't know. I trust Jalen's decision-making more than I ever have in my entire life. So it's it's one of your pick your poisons. And I think, they're going to try their best to say, hey, this guy's been off for 38 days. He had that good one game. Let's see him do it 3 more times and live with it, as opposed to doing something that's going to get Tatum or Brown on a roll and in rhythm, because now you're in a whole lot bigger, world of hurt.
Just stay poised. Just stay poised, man. They're going to try and bait you into some stuff. But yeah, the hedge and recover worked a bit, but there was no Porzingis. You want to hedge and recover, but then it's the pass back to KP is out at the logo and he's just firing from there. It's right. They didn't have him before. They're playing that offense with Luke Cornett. So, yeah, and even I was thinking about this, if they're going to go switching, it's wow. I thought KP, first game back, his catches were a little too far out. And I think in game 2, he's going to do a better job of making those catches just a couple feet closer. You go back and watch that March game against Dallas, he had a couple of catches below the free throw line where he's pivoting and he ends up right at the basket. So I think that's a piece of this too, is Porzingis is obviously, how much better can he play? Again, going back to this, there's a Mavs fan in here who came in, must have missed our Porzingis thing here, but Porzingis won't do that again. He ends the game 8 for 13. And I think in that second half, he let them kind of knock him off his spot a little bit, attacking those right matchups. He's going to get stronger. That's his first game in 40 days. They've really designed this schedule perfectly for Porzingis and Al Horford. Not for me personally.
But Luka. It does help Luka too recover.
I don't know though, because he's still not. He doesn't seem to be getting any better. He had all the 9 days off, and he's still grabbing his knee in game 1. I don't know.
Well, he was losing, so
that's a good point.
That's usually his. No, they were down, so His knee looked okay when he was making those threes to cut it to 8.
Yeah.
It's funny how
all of a
that
sudden
is.
we pushed it to 18 and it hurt again for some
Yeah.
reason. Yeah, imagine that. All right, boys. I think we should probably wrap it up there. It's right on the hour. Ben will be very proud of us.
I know.
Greeny, where can the people find you?
Barstoolsports.com, on Twitter @StillGreeny, losing my mind. I'm sure Ben is right there with me. I'm sure you guys are, just as antsy and reckless and restless. I don't know. There's nothing better than finals nerves, but there's also like you're so close yet so far. I'm losing my mind.
Indeed. I know. Yeah, we are definitely losing our minds. Jake, go ahead.
Get one more win. Just get one more win tomorrow, and then getting one more win after that. That's all we got to do.
And then one more after that.
Don't stop.
Well, I'm just saying.
The fourth one.
Just
One
get
game
one
at a
more.
time.
One more. Give me the 205, dude, please.
I know. That'll be so nice. Hunting packs like killer whales. It'll all work itself out. Boys, love your work. Appreciate it. See ya.
I love the Celtics!